Ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe to this channel right now. So the Comey and Letitia James indictments were kicked out because of the appointment of the prosecutor. That was not the big indictment. That was not the big trial that everybody was waiting for anyway. We'll talk about that a little later. That's not a big deal. It could be a big deal for the people who, are jumping for joy that Trump lost politically, that they think Trump lost politically. But hit subscribe to this channel. Go to H.A. Goodman's other channels. So my super chat, thank you. Can't do this without you. Your super chat support is greatly, greatly appreciated. The DOJ launching grand jury investigation into Russiagate conspiracy allegations. There's already a grand jury in Florida. Mike Davis of the Article 3 Project has talked about conspiracy under rights. And it's the same statute that they try to utilize against President Trump. So right here, they went after President Trump for conspiracy against rights. So conspiracy against rights for lawfully and legally contesting the results of the 2020 debacle, which gave us 4 years of Biden. It was so terrible that even Democrats kicked Biden out of contention in 2024. Okay. It was a failed 4 years. We have President Trump yet again, thank God. So President Trump won, even though people like Comey and Brennan and Clinton and others conspired, which is what took place. It was a fact. We know that now from the ODNI, the newly declassified documents that Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence, declassified, and the Clinton annex from the Durham probe. We'll get to those in a second. I want to just show you exactly not only where Comey lied under oath, but where he still, about 5 years ago, and there's no statute of limitations for conspiracy. When it's this type of conspiracy, they keep going and going. The statute of limitations only ends when the conspiracy itself ends, and they're still claiming that Trump colluded or had something to do with, collusion. So they're still claiming that. They have not yet admitted that it was completely fabricated. But hit subscribe to this channel right now. The grand jury in Florida is the big trial. Okay, not this, 2 counts of lying under oath. But check this out, ladies and gentlemen. This directly correlates to the grand jury in Florida, and that they won't be able to get out of that one very, with by saying, the prosecutor or the prosecutors were illegally appointed. There's zero question that the people in charge of the grand jury investigation in Florida, there's zero question about their legitimacy. It's certain that a whole bunch of people, including Comey, will face legal repercussions from that Florida grand jury. Almost certain. Check this out. Hit subscribe if you're new.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, when did you first learn of the existence of the Steele dossier?
Sometime towards the end of September of 2016.
Okay. Do you agree with Mr. Horowitz that the dossier was central and essential to the Carter Page FISA warrant application being approved?
I agree that it was important. I can't tell you whether it was essential, and by that I mean that it wouldn't have been granted without the Steele information.
So that's one of his many lies. Of course, nobody would have been investigated were it not for the Steele dossier, which Clinton purchased. Now, we know that Brennan and Comey and others, new evidence uncovers Obama-directed creation of false intelligence report used to launch years-long coup to undermine President Trump, the American people. This is now declassified. The same intelligence, the same law enforcement agencies used to go after Trump are now saying that 10 years ago, there were a bunch of people who conspired against President Trump. This is what the DOJ grand jury probe in Florida, a red state, is discovering and addressing. Newly declassified DOJ watchdog report shows FBI cut corners in Clinton email investigation. The fact that they treated Clinton which it's impossible to transfer top secret and special access program intelligence. It's impossible to do so from a cybersecurity perspective. It's illegal, and it's not possible from a cybersecurity perspective. Comey said there was no intent. Inherent in owning the server is the intent to hide. They knew this, but they covered up the Clinton email probe, and then they fabricated Trump Russia. That is a fact. That's not conjecture. That's not hyperbole. They literally set up and framed Trump. It's within the declassified documents from Tulsi Gabbard. And John Ratcliffe at the CIA, the same agency that Brennan ran, stated that they conspired. They have the intelligence, they have the evidence to show that people like Comey and Brennan and others conspired to set up and frame Trump. So Carter Page was one of the first people who was set up and framed. They had to go ahead and frame Carter Page and General Michael Flynn and others before they got to Trump. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the main story. It's not the fact that Comey slithered his way out of perjury with the issue with Lindsay Halligan. That's not the big story. The big story is the grand jury in Florida.
Let's go through the application. There are two parts to the application. Was there an effort to get a warrant approved without using the dossier?
Yes, my understanding is in the summer they asked DOJ whether they would support moving forward on a warrant application.
And they said no, right?
Correct. That's my understanding from the Horowitz report.
Then you add the dossier, all of a sudden they say yes to the warrant application. Is that a fair statement?
I think it's fair to say that DOJ decided to move forward after the Steele information was part of it.
Yes, so I would say that it was central and essential based on that. Now, here's what I'd like to ask.
The Steele dossier was literally purchased by Hillary Clinton. Literally. Of course, through, degrees of separation and, a consulting firm and, 2 or 3 operatives. But yes, the money, that's why Clinton and the DNC paid a Federal Election Commission fine. They literally purchased a hoax that people believed, that people still believe to this day. And they funneled the hoax through the U.S. government. And BuzzFeed, for example, if the tables were turned, would never publish a dossier purchased by Trump and Giuliani. But they did so, almost certainly knowing that Clinton purchased it. And Brennan and Comey and others utilized it to frame and set up Trump. There was not a shred of evidence that pointed to Trump and Russia. If you're an adversary, why wouldn't you want Democrats? They invaded when Biden was in office, not when Trump was in office. That alone completely destroys the whole Trump-Russia myth.
Ask the contacts between Mr. Page and alleged Russian operatives are one part of the application. Is that correct?
That's my recollection.
Okay. Did Mr. Page deny knowing people that you accuse him of having contact with?
I don't remember. I think the Horowitz report says that in the fall of 2016, speaking to an FBI source, he denied knowing certain people, but that's about all I recall.
Well, here's the facts. He denied knowing these people, and the FBI is yet to find any evidence that he was lying. The people that he did have contact with, did he tell the FBI that he was working for the CIA and that's why he had contacts with these people?
I don't remember that.
Do you now agree that the CIA confirmed that Mr. Page was in fact helping them?
I know from the Horowitz report that the CIA confirmed he was what they call a contact.
So
the CIA under John Brennan helped fabricate the entire hoax. That's also within the declassified documents. The issue here is that Comey got away from the perjury or the lying to Congress and obstruction on a lie, one of many, many, many lies, almost certainly, that he told 5 years ago. This should have been taken care of, if the initial career prosecutor couldn't find any evidence lifelong or career prosecutors. That's a synonym for very likely Democratic loyalist, or Democratic Party loyalist. Whenever wonderful, morally superior Democrats or media look at anything that has to do with President Trump, they say Trump loyalist, Trump loyalist. When it's, Democrats, career prosecutors, the career prosecutors. Yes, the career prosecutor, the career prosecutors, let's say, on the Colorado State Supreme Court banned Trump on the ballot. The United States Supreme Court overturned that. Okay, so the Supreme Court consistently, 93% of the time, overturns lower court rulings of federal courts. This was a federal court that found that the appointment of Lindsay Halligan was, not constitutional or not, it wasn't, she wasn't appointed correctly or legally. Okay. This has nothing to do with the main issue, which is Russiagate and setting up and framing Trump. That is ongoing. They're going to make certain this, and if anything, this debacle today was a very good thing for Trump, because the people at the DOJ obviously have a lot more to worry about than indicting Comey or Brennan. Okay, there are a lot more important things than indicting James Comey or John Brennan for creating Russiagate. But it's if they committed crimes, which they almost certainly did, that's the only way to incentivize wonderful, morally superior Democrats not to go after their political opponents, which is what they did with Trump. But anyway, let's continue.
So the FBI in August of 2016 had information from the CIA informing the FBI that, in fact, Mr. Page was a resource. Did you not know that? I
did not know of the nature of his relationship with the CIA. What I'm telling you is what I read in the Horowitz report.
That's almost certainly a lie. The director of the FBI doesn't know that somebody's associated with the CIA, that Carter Page was, helping America's intelligences. He didn't know this. This is, of course, everything with Comey is plausible deniability. There's very little in real time that you can actually state he's lying about. He can always fall back on bureaucracy. So John Brennan, he's a better liar than John Brennan is. John Brennan was terrible at lying. But they can always fall back at utilizing bureaucracy. But let's continue.
Do you think it would have been fair for the FBI to tell the court that Mr. Page had a reason to be talking to these people because he was working with the CIA? Would that have been a fair thing to tell the court?
I don't agree with your characterization of what Mr. Horowitz found.
No, I'm talking about you as a director. The FBI has in its possession in August 2016 information from the CIA confirming what Mr. Page said, that he in fact was assisting the CIA, which explained the contacts. That was never given to the court. Should they have been informed of that? Because that's exculpatory to Mr. Page.
They hid all the exculpatory evidence from Trump and from the American public. And now they have the conspiracy against rights, the conspiracy statutes, the 18 U.S. Code 371 I wrote about in the Federalist. What happened is James Comey almost certainly knew, and John Brennan almost certainly knew, and all of these people almost certainly knew that Clinton was guilty of crimes, but they covered them up. They also knew that Trump was not guilty of crimes, but the American public, the people who didn't vote for Trump, desperately wanted to believe that Trump was guilty of something, because you've had 30 plus years of actual criminal activity or innuendo or conjecture or suspicion or allegations against the Clintons. So they said, well, we don't have time to, how can we make everything morally relative? How can we bottle up 30 years of scandal with the Clintons and everyone, and then you have the Clinton email probe, which was a cover-up. Again, it's impossible from a cybersecurity perspective. We'll see that in a second. From one of the Republicans in Congress, Republican congressman, talking about SAP Intel and Comey acknowledging that there was special access program intelligence on Clinton's servers. It's impossible from a cybersecurity perspective to transfer top secret or SAP Intel onto secret servers. It can't happen. It cannot happen. It cannot happen. But it happened with Clinton, and Comey couldn't find intent. That is the conspiracy. The part of it is proving that they treated Clinton in a different manner than they did Trump. They raided Mar-a-Lago for classified data. They didn't raid any location associated with the Clintons or Bidens or anyone. So the issue, ladies and gentlemen, is that you treat one political side one way, another political side another way, and then people convince themselves that it's just the rule of law. It's not. It's not. You're not only favoring one side, you're tipping the scales of justice, and you're trying to alter the course, the trajectory of U.S. history. But it didn't work. President Trump won yet again, thank God. But right here, you're going to find out where the conspiracy statutes and the conspiracy begins. Check this out.
I believe Mr. Horowitz found that they should have at least considered informing the court.
You're the director of the FBI. Would you wish that had been done if you had known about it?
I'm sorry, Senator, that what had been done?
That you had informed the court that Mr. Page was in fact working with the CIA, and that explains these contacts. Do you think, out of a sense of fairness, the court should have been informed of that fact?
Again, I don't agree with your preamble. I don't think the record established that he was working with the CIA. I think Horowitz found he was a contact, which means
we've got the email from the CIA confirming that he was a source for the CIA. Are you aware of the fact that that email later on was doctored?
Again, I don't accept what you said. I don't think the record establishes he was a source for the CIA. I am aware from the Harvard
Why is
report.
Mr. Klein-Smith facing criminal indictment?
I only know what I've read in the public record.
How is he director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation? He only knows what he's read in the public record. He is privy to everything, almost certainly. This is, of course, a terrible lie, but what has taken place, ladies and gentlemen, is why, hit subscribe to this channel. The plausible deniability, expressed by Comey and others, Brennan, I didn't know. I found out through public record. Part of the public record was influenced by leaks from Comey himself. He literally, when he says he only knows part of the public record, he literally used a conduit who happened to be his attorney, so they claims attorney-client privilege, to leak information, to create a special counsel. So the public record is literally altered and influenced by leaks from the FBI, CIA, and others. And then people say, well, it's public record. But yeah, the sources, you think the New York Times, the Washington Post, or others, the Atlantic, have sources that vote for Trump? The sources are almost always against Trump, despise Trump, and they are a source, according to people familiar with the matter. This is the only thing you read for 4 years in Trump's first term. But claiming plausible deniability is like this catch me if you can, there's no way to prove that Comey is lying here in real time. There's no way to prove it. But when you have something declassified, like the Director of National Intelligence just declassified, and then you have the Durham probe annex and other things that John Ratcliffe alluded to in the Maria Bartiromo interview, then you can say, okay, there's no way that they didn't know of all these things. The conspiracy is bureaucracy. They utilized bureaucracy to cover up one scandal with Clinton and fabricate another scandal with Trump. So that's where the conspiracy is. Okay, it's not the rule of law was altered to benefit one political side and tarnish another.
That he was accused of
You're
changing.
the director of the FBI. You didn't know that your own agency had information from the CIA verifying what Mr. Page told you, that these contacts had a basis, in fact, because he was working with the CIA. Did you know that Mr. Klein-Smith doctored the email for it to read that there was no association between Page?
You literally had Klein-Smith, the lawyer, fabricate an email, which he was convicted. The only person convicted of anything was this guy Klein-Smith. But Brennan and Comey and all the others, they, I mean, just today circumvented again. But today's like, it's actually a good thing. You definitely want, like, I love Pam Bondi, but she has to, they have more important things at the Department of Justice than indict Comey. I get that. But the only way to stop the lawfare is to ensure that if people committed crimes, setting up and framing Trump, that there's legal consequences if people committed crimes. If Comey committed a crime, if Brennan committed a crime, then maybe they should be indicted for these crimes. Setting up and framing an incoming candidate could be a crime.
In the CIA, that he changed there was to there was not. How do you feel about that?
I know nothing about Mr. Kleinsmith other than what I've read in the
Well,
public
how do you
record.
feel in general about an FBI lawyer doctoring information exculpatory to somebody being surveilled?
Any false statement in the course of an investigation is deeply
But you didn't know anything about that, okay? In October, when the warrant was submitted, the application was submitted, what effort had been made to verify the dossier in October?
I don't.
So I probably should have started with this, but if you've watched this long, I mean, you just, 20 minutes in, that's the most important part right here. So check this out.
I don't know specifically. I know the Counterintelligence Division was working to see how much of it they could rule in and rule out.
How much time did they spend ruling in and ruling out regarding the dossier in October?
I do not.
You don't know?
I don't.
You signed the application. Whose job is it to make sure the facts are right when you present them to the FISA court?
Well, the most basic level, the affiant, whoever is signing the affidavit.
Did you sign the affidavit?
No, I signed a certification, which is required of the FBI director.
So I didn't sign the affidavit. I signed the certification. I didn't know, if the Steele dossier was valid or the process to make it legitimate. I didn't know this. I didn't know that. I had no clue. Then he says he didn't know about the Steele dossier or who purchased it. So this is all debunked. His testimony has been debunked by newly released documents. Again, the CIA is now run by John Ratcliffe, has all the information almost certainly about everything Comey did. The perjury, the false statement, or the obstruction, that's not the issue. They all lied under oath or misled Congress like 30, 40 different times. Just within the last couple of minutes, it was misleading Congress. He lied by omission. These are lies by omission. But here, he's asked very directly about the conspiracy.
Okay. Does the FBI director have any responsibility to make sure the facts are right when they're given to the court?
Not in connection with the certification, but in general, the FBI director is responsible for everything that's being done underneath the FBI director.
What we're trying to find is who provided the application to the FISA court and why was it so flawed? Can you give me a group of people we can look at to hold accountable for misleading the court? Who should we be looking at?
To understand the process in general, and in this case, you would start with the Horowitz report, where he recounts all the many people involved in the review, production, and delivery to the court of this application.
But you don't know, as the director of the FBI, who actually prepared the application. Is that correct?
I do not.
Okay. All right. So in October, it's clear, Mr. Comey, there was no effort to verify the dossier before it was given to the court. Do you agree with that?
I don't know the answer.
Well,
he knows the answer of whether the dossier was verified. He knows everything about the dossier. He's the FBI director. He knew almost certainly in real time that Clinton had purchased it specifically for this purpose. He's the director of the FBI. You go from J. Edgar Hoover to Comey, who knows nothing. J. Edgar Hoover had everything on everyone, and then Comey knows nothing. Yet he can't even find intent with Clinton's private servers, which are there inherent to owning private servers, the intent to hide. And so it's like, this is the thing. It's like this catch me if you can mentality with Trump. Oh, he's guilty. This is how warped the political opposition to Trump is. They're calling President Trump Dementia Don. Why? Because it was literally Biden that was forced out by his own political party and George Clooney for having cognitive issues. So they have to. I mean, with the uranium one, Trump, Russia. Literally force out Biden. Oh, yeah, Trump has problems upstairs. One fry short of a Happy Meal. It's like everything they're guilty of. What does Trump have to hide with the EP files? Like, you're he gave only exclusively to Democrats. I mean, like primarily, like 90% to Democrats. That's why he got his offender status lowered by the Manhattan DA years back. He got immunity deals with Democrats in South Florida. So it's like we can go on forever. $139,000 to Democrats. EP gave $22,000 to Hillary Clinton. We can go on forever. $22,000 to Chuck Schumer. But anyway, let's continue.
That's the answer. In January of 12th, 2017, the warrant application was renewed. Did you sign that?
I signed a certification in connection with, I think, two renewals, one in January and one 3 months later.
Are you aware of the fact between October and January, the FBI had found that the Russian subsource was on the payroll of Mr. Steele, was suspected of being a Russian spy by the FBI all the way back to 2009?
I don't remember learning anything additional about Steele's sources.
It's unbelievable. You can't find intent with Clinton's servers, which only would exist because of the intent to hide information. He doesn't know anything. As the director of the FBI, he doesn't know anything about this, the sources of the dossier he literally gave to Trump to try to intimidate Trump. And so I'm complimenting James Comey by stating he can't be an imbecile. He has to be a brilliant or highly intelligent individual. You would have to be a complete and utter imbecile not to know any of this. Or completely inept as the director of the FBI. As the director of the FBI, Comey was a brilliant man, very intelligent, lacked wisdom, tried to set up and frame an incoming president and, create turmoil and chaos within the United States of America. I mean, even with the seashells 8647, I mean, that's like a diabolical type of message. But he's a brilliant man. He's an intelligent man. He's not an imbecile. So how he could answer that legitimately and honestly is it's not plausible.
How can it be, Mr. Director, that the FBI finds in its file that the man that prepared the dossier for Steele was suspected of being a threat to national security, and it doesn't make it up to you?
I don't know. I could speculate, but I don't know. I haven't spoken to the
I don't
people.
want you to speculate. We'll try to figure this all out ourselves. Do you know who Christopher Steele was? When did you find out who he was?
When the Steele dossier was briefed to me sometime, like I said, I think late September.
Were you ever told that he hated Trump and he wanted him to lose, and he very much down on Donald Trump as a person?
Not that I recall, no.
You don't remember Bruce Orr briefing the team about Steele's biases, that you have to really watch this guy?
Sex. I said.
Or ever briefing me.
Do you remember friendly foreign governments putting us on notice that he tends to exaggerate? He goes off on crusades. Did that make it to you?
I don't recall that.
Okay, thank you. All right, so should the court have been informed in a perfect world that the primary subsource was a suspected Russian spy?
At a minimum, the team at the FBI and Justice should have discussed whether to inform the court about that.
Were you aware that in December 2016, the CIA tells the FBI they characterized the dossier as internet rumor?
I don't recall being informed of that.
Were you ever told by the CIA to be careful with the dossier and Steele that that this is not good craft here?
I don't remember ever being told anything like that.
So again, he's hiding behind, again, you could point to, this is just one press release pertaining to the declassified documents. There are, endless declassified documents pertaining to not only the Clinton email probe, but Russiagate, the creation of the Steele dossier, which is in the Clinton probe annex, and the people conspiring against Trump. So all of these, I don't recall, I don't remember, I stand by bureaucratic nonsense. They're going, this is the jury in Florida, the grand jury in Florida is looking in part as to why Clinton was not indicted, but Trump was indicted under, like Clinton had servers, Trump didn't collude with Russia, yet one investigation was completely overboard and the other was an overt cover-up. Okay, but let's continue. This is, you'll get to Comey's testimony in a couple of seconds that is unbelievable.
Okay. All right, so let's fast forward now. The warrant application is renewed in April 2017. You signed it in January the 12th. You didn't know that the primary subsource was suspected by the FBI of being a Russian spy all the way back to 2009. You didn't know that the CIA had told the FBI the documents internet rumor. Are you aware of the fact that the subsource was actually interviewed by the FBI in January 2017?
I don't remember anything about interviews of the subsource.
So, as the director, was this an important case for the FBI, or is this kind of a run-of-the-mill thing?
The overarching investigation was very important. The page slice of it, far less. Given
Well, I
the
mean, you
scope.
have a sitting president of the United States by January 2017. You have a dossier that's
So again, the overarching it's all the overarching investigation. Yes, the exculpatory evidence with Trump. God, I don't really know. That's the issue. It's not today what took place. It's probably the best thing to ever happen for President Trump. It could be one of the worst things to happen for Democrats, media, because now you have the Department of Justice waking up. Okay, the Democrats are going to obstruct every second. They're going to impeach Trump a million times when they take back the House. Okay, they'll likely take back the House, although they can mess that up. But this is the difference, okay? They went after Trump with a vengeance. It is impossible for SAP Intel to be on Clinton's servers. Impossible. Yet Comey almost certainly covered that up. Check this out. This is very important. Hit subscribe if you're new. Paul Bartlett, thank you to my super chat. Thank you, Paul, as always. In Australia, thank you.
Of using a private server, that server being the server of the former president of the United States that maybe Mrs. Clinton thought would be more secure than the leaky system at the State Department. I yield back.
So I don't know which Democrat that was, but the leaky system at the state, leaky system. Clinton's servers were better than the government networks were leaky. And Clinton had better servers in her basement or, run by people that had, no security clearance or, with top secret intelligence transferred onto these servers. And that wasn't leaky. It was literally impossible to transfer top secret intelligence onto servers. Now, watch what Comey says. And this is the conspiracy statute. This is a grandiose moment in U.S. history that nobody cares about.
Now I recognize the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Hurd, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'm offended. I'm offended by my friends on the other side of the political aisle saying this is political theater. This is not political theater. For me, this is serious. I spent 9.5 years as an undercover officer in the CIA. I was the guy in the back alleys collecting intelligence, passing it to lawmakers. I've seen my friends killed. I've seen assets put themselves in harm's way. And this is about protecting information, the most sensitive information the American government has. And I wish my colleagues would take this a little bit more seriously. Mr. Comey, Director Comey, excuse me. SAP, Special Access Program, you alluded to earlier, that includes SCI information. Does SCI information include HUMINT and SIGINT?
Yes.
HUMINT and SIGINT, human intelligence information collected from people that are putting themselves in harm's way to give us information to drive foreign policy. Signals intelligence, some of the most sensitive things to understand what Al-Qaeda is doing, what ISIS is doing. So, the former Secretary of State had an unauthorized server, and those are your words, in her basement, correct?
Correct.
Who was protecting that information? Who was protecting that server?
Well, not much. There was.
So that's Congressman Hurd of Texas, used to work at the CIA and became a congressman, very, very good congressman in Texas. And this was a moment in U.S. history where Congressman William Hurd is asking Comey, and here's where the conspiracy statutes. This moment is one of the ways that he can be indicted, not only indicted, but convicted. This is absurd. This is completely absurd. It's completely outlandish. Congressman Hurd is asking Comey, how on earth did SAP Intel get transferred to Clinton's servers? And instead, not much was protecting it, actually. Could you imagine if Comey was investigating Donald Trump for using private servers that had SAP Intel illegally transferred onto them? You think that James Comey wouldn't find intent with Trump? And so Democrats have been able to get away with the most overt criminal activity for the past 10 years, probably more than that, but with impunity. They've acted with impunity because people like Comey couldn't find intent for SAP Intel to be transferred onto servers. Listen to this again. This is exactly where this is a moment in U.S. history where Congressman Will Hurd points out that Comey couldn't find intent, knowing very well that servers were not protected and had illegally transferred SAP Intel onto them, and yet he chose not to indict Clinton, but go after Trump with a dossier that was literally purchased by Clinton. That's where the conspiracy statutes come in.
And inadvertent.
Sure.
And in this case,
themselves in harm's way. And this is about protecting information, the most sensitive information the American government has. And I wish my colleagues would take this a little bit more seriously. Mr. Comey, Director Comey, excuse me. SAP, Special Access Program, you alluded to earlier, that includes SCI information. Does SCI information include HUMINT and SIGINT?
Yes.
HUMINT and SIGINT, human intelligence information collected from people that are putting themselves in harm's way to give us information to drive foreign policy. Signals intelligence, some of the most sensitive things to understand what Al-Qaeda is doing, what ISIS is doing. So, the former Secretary of State had an unauthorized server, and those are your words, in her basement, correct?
Correct.
Who was protecting that information? Who was protecting that server?
Well, not much. There was a number of different people who were assigned as administrators of the server.
And at least 7 emails chains, or 8, that was classified as TSSCI.
Correct.
So the former Secretary of State, one of the president's most important advisors on foreign policy and national security, had a server in her basement that had information that was collected from our most sensitive assets, and it was not protected by anyone. And that's not a crime? That's outrageous. People are concerned. What does it take for someone?
Of course it's a crime. Comey covered that up. That's not rocket science. The entire planet knows that Comey and Brennan and others almost certainly covered up the Clinton email probe. It's not only a crime, it's impossible from a cybersecurity perspective. But Comey knows that half the country knows. Comey understands that half the country understands very well he was lying. But he's not speaking to the half of the country that voted for President Trump twice. He's speaking. Comey exists politically. His political persona caters to the Jimmy Kimmel audience, the Hollywood, the very wealthy Virginia Democrats who, got back into power in Virginia. He is not. The world knows that Comey and Brennan and Clapper, they all lied. And they know that a good portion of the planet knows they're lying. They don't care. It's a political machine. And so the political machine can set up and frame Trump, cover the Clinton email probe up, and cover up the Hunter laptop with 50 intel officials, because enough people the cognitive dissonance is so strong. Cognitive dissonance is so strong that people will believe anything they say, or they'll suspend logic. So everyone knows, generally, aside from the wonderful morally superior Democrats, everybody knows that Comey almost certainly lied. Everybody knows that Comey almost certainly covered things up. Covered up Clinton, the crimes there with SAP intel, illegally transferred onto servers. There's no legal way to transfer SAP or top secret intelligence onto unencrypted or private servers. There's no legal way. It's not only completely illegal, it's a national cybersecurity risk. It's a national security and cybersecurity debacle. It's the greatest cybersecurity nightmare of all time. But everybody knows this. But he's not speaking. Comey politically is not speaking to the entire planet that knows that he was covering things up. He's speaking to the people who don't want to address the truth, or the people who've suspended logic and just believe the bureaucratic nonsense for political or tribal reasons.
To misuse classified information and get in trouble for it.
Well, it takes mishandling it and criminal intent.
So
there's no criminal intent in illegally transferring SAP intel onto secret servers that Comey just admitted were not being protected. I mean, it's unbelievable. This defies. It's completely preposterous and outlandish. But they'll say something completely outlandish, like Clinton didn't mean to use private servers, and they'll say there's no direct evidence that you can point to, and then of course there's endless direct evidence that it was deliberately used to hide information. And what Clinton did is commingle classified data with personal emails and made it impossible for the U.S. government. Well, no, any other person would have been immediately sent to jail. But almost certainly intel agencies gave the green light or looked the other way because it was the Secretary of State under President Obama. President Obama knew. He got emails from Clinton's private. He didn't have a .gov email address. So, I mean, it's completely outlandish. But see, again, the fabricated scandals of Trump, the intelligentsia, we have the most unintelligent intelligentsia. The American intelligentsia doesn't think this is a scandal, even though it's the greatest cybersecurity scandal of all time. The American intelligentsia thinks that the Trump-Russia thing is actually real. So the American intelligentsia is complete imbeciles. But anyway, let's continue.
An unauthorized server in the basement is not mishandling.
Well, no, there is evidence of mishandling here. This whole investigation at the end focused on, is there sufficient evidence of intent?
People get indicted all the time and convicted and sent to prison for unintentionally doing infinitely less than private servers.
Is this unanimous opinion within the FBI on your decision?
Well, the whole FBI wasn't involved, but the team of agents, investigators, analysts, technologists, yes.
Did you take into any?
Of course it was unanimous. They were all texting how much they hated Trump. I mean, it's like, and it probably wasn't unanimous. You know, the people who don't want to be indicted in the grand jury case alongside Comey are probably whistleblowers right now. You can only hide for so long. You can only say, catch me if you can, for so long. And it's like, they're not going to make the same mistake with the upcoming Brennan indictment. They're not going to make the same mistake with the grand jury. Please, for the love of God, Pam Bondi and everyone at the DOJ, I mean, they don't, see, this is the thing. If the Department of Justice keeps losing like they did today with a, you know, obvious victory for it could be a Pyrrhic victory for Comey, but an obvious, you know, immediate legal victory for Comey. If they keep losing, then he'll just, you know, Comey and Brennan and Clapper and Clinton, because Clinton will almost certainly get indicted as well. They'll all just circumvent the allegations. If Comey committed a crime, then he'll get indicted under the grand jury from the grand jury in Florida. But if he is, and the DOJ hasn't like dotted the I's, crossed the T's, knows exactly what's going on, then he'll skirt and circumvent, you know, repercussions again. But see, again, today was the best thing that could have happened to Trump and Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, because you can't have, if Comey committed a crime in setting up and framing Trump along with Brennan and Clapper and others and Clinton, the only way to ensure it doesn't happen again is to ensure that people who committed those crimes, if they committed those crimes, are indicted.
Consideration, the impact that this precedence can set on our ability to collect intelligence overseas?
Yes, my primary concern is the impact on what other employees might think in the federal government.
And you don't think this sends a message to other employees that if the former Secretary of State can have an unauthorized server in their basement that transmits top secret information, that's not a problem?
Oh, I worry very much about that. That's why I talked about that in my statement, because an FBI employee might face severe discipline, and I want them to understand that those.
See, that's complete nonsense. They'd be in jail. It wouldn't be, again, they're just falling back on bureaucracy. And that's the thing. It's completely, there's zero investigative journalism at the New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, MSNBC, The Atlantic on private servers. But if Trump had private servers, they would have accused Trump of writing love letters to Putin, and probably they would have accused Trump of emailing launch codes to Putin, directly to Putin. Trump. Sources say Trump tried to sell the planet to Martians in a private email exchange between him and a Martian and alien emissary.
Those consequences are still going to be there.
Director Comey, do you have a server in your basement?
I do not.
Does anybody in the FBI have a server in their basement or in their house?
I don't know. Not.
Do you think it's likely?
Does anybody in the FBI have a server? I don't know. It's like unbelievable.
I think it's unlikely.
I would think so too. I would think so too, because I've been proud to serve alongside the men and women that you represent. So there was no dissenting opinion when you made this decision. It's your job to be involved in counterintelligence as well, right?
Yes.
So that means protecting our secrets from foreign adversaries collecting them. Is that correct?
Correct.
Did this activity you investigated make America's secrets vulnerable to hostile elements?
Yes.
So it made America vulnerable to adversaries. He says yes. There's no hesitation. This is the only thing that he said that's true. Okay, that's categorically true, not a lie by omission. And nobody at the Atlantic cares. Nobody at the. It's hilarious. Oh, Trump, the signal. He Pete Hegseth's signal, and Trump had classified data. It's like he was president with the power to declassify. Okay, Clinton had top secret intel on servers that were almost certainly hacked by the entire every adversary, almost certainly. But they wouldn't give you a thank you note So it's like, you don't know if they were hacked. It's like, well, Comey at least is honest here. So the damage to national security is untold. It's unimaginable. But again, it's like, this is the DOJ, the grand jury probe. This is what this is all about.
Do you think that pattern of behavior would continue?
I'm sorry, I missed the
Do you think that pattern of behavior would continue?
would continue.
By our former Secretary of State?
I'm not following. You mean if this had not come to light, you mean?
Right now, based on what we see, do you think there's going to be other elements within the federal government that think it's okay to have an unauthorized server in their basement?
Well, they better not. That's one of the reasons I'm talking about it.
So, but what is the ramifications of them doing that? How is there going to be any consequences levered if it's not being levered here? Because indeed, you're setting a precedent.
Yeah, the precedent, I want people to understand, again, I only am responsible for the FBI.
So now he's lying here, and he's trying to say, well, I'm not allowing anyone to have a private server. The precedent here is very, very specific to Clinton, who basically has gotten away with basically everything, but, whatever. It's a precedent here. You have to be Secretary of State, you have to be a Democrat, and you have to be, connected beyond belief, and you have to have servers run by Democrats, and anybody else who had a server, of course, will go to prison forever. So it's obviously illegal. It's obviously illegal to transfer SAP intel and top secret intel onto servers. It's not only highly illegal, it's impossible from a cybersecurity perspective. Anyone who has a server, anyone who has anything to do with a server that has top secret intelligence or classified data funneled illegally into it will go to prison for a long time. But Comey has to, of course, walk a tightrope here and lie by omission.
That there will be discipline from termination to reprimand and everything in between for people who mishandle classified information.
Mr. Director Comey, I'm not a lawyer, and so I may misstate this. Is there such a thing as the case of first impression? And why was this not possibly one of those?
There is such a thing, which just means the first time you do something. The reason this isn't one of those is that's just not fair. That would be treating somebody differently because of their celebrity status or because of some other factor. Doesn't matter. We have to treat people. It's the bedrock of our system of justice. We treat people fairly. We treat them the same based on their conduct.
And that.
This is unbelievable. I mean, Laurence Olivier isn't as good as Comey, but that's the thing. People want to believe the absolute nonsense. And that's how he gets, book deals, and half the country go to bed at night with Jimmy Kimmel, wake up with the ladies at The View and CNN, MSNBC, and they read the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Atlantic. I wouldn't even say half the country, maybe, 20, 25, 30%. And they're completely indoctrinated. They truly believe that reality in life is that Trump is a Russian operative who tried to foment a rebellion, and he's afraid of releasing the files because he has something to hide, and that Clinton used servers for yoga, and that Comey is a Boy Scout who treated everyone equally. But you have to be completely indoctrinated to believe this. But there are millions of people who either believe it or who have enough incentive because of tribalism and political allegiance to just go along with it or suspend logic and say, hey, he's on my team, our side. Not if Trump had private servers, I wouldn't vote for him. I mean, if Eric Trump, Donald Trump Jr. had a laptop full of graft, I wouldn't vote for him. There is no what about this. They didn't have private servers. Trump didn't have a laptop full of graft. Okay, Trump didn't set up and frame an incoming candidate with a dossier he purchased. I wouldn't vote for Trump if he did that. And of course, Comey did not treat Trump in the same manner he treated Clinton, which he just opined on in the most virtuous, hilarious, nauseating diatribe here. It's a bedrock. It's the bedrock as he sets up and frames everybody around Trump. So, the bedrock as he leaks information. But let's continue.
person mishandling the most sensitive information that this government can collect is not fair? It's not fair to punish someone who did that?
Not on these facts. It would be fair, that person worked for me, it'd be fair to have a robust disciplinary proceeding. It's not fair to prosecute that person on these facts.
I thank
Mr. Chairman, I yield back the time. I do not.
It's not fair to prosecute a person on these facts that top secret intel was illegally transferred onto servers. And Congressman Hurd was brilliant. The only thing I would have loved to ask him to ask would be how on earth, from a cybersecurity perspective, was classified data allowed to be transferred onto servers, which makes it not only illegal, it's, you know, the issue of espionage. I mean, it's a foreign espionage dream. It's so absurd and outlandish. The whole thing is completely absurd and outlandish. But again, American politics has been altered and warped and twisted into, you know, this team sport. Like it's blue versus red, and it's not about the country. If it was about the country, anyone with private servers would have been indicted. If it was about the country, anyone with bribery and graft in laptops would have been, you know, if it was Biden running, he would have been, you know, investigated. Anyone who, like Trump, was illegally surveilled but accused of something he didn't do. So nobody, JFK, Reagan, nobody would have initiated an investigation. Even Bill Clinton wouldn't have done this. He wouldn't have investigated W. Bush. You know, Reagan, you know, or Herbert Walker wouldn't have investigated Bill Clinton. And we can go on forever. Okay. Eisenhower didn't investigate JFK. We can go on forever. But President Obama, and this is why I think that he's helping Trump in some way, doesn't want his legacy tarnished forever. His team investigated Comey, Brennan, Clapper, all of them. Not only investigated Trump, set up and framed Trump. Set up and framed Trump, an incoming president. This is impossible to do. It's impossible to do from a side. It's not only unethical, it's un-American. It's completely un-American. But that's what took place. Anyway, hit subscribe. I'll be back later tonight. God bless you all, everybody. You know what? I give it up to James Comey. He won. He won round one against Trump. Well, actually, he lost. He lost, you know, the major match, which is the presidential contest. So President Trump won again, despite the best efforts of those who oppose Trump. The DOJ is going to be in Republican hands for a long, Trump Republican for a long time. J.D. Vance will win after Trump, unless AOC will help Brennan or Code Newsom or Comey. But anyway, hit subscribe. I'll see you tonight, everybody. Be here at around 10:30. Trump for life. Thank you so much for the kind words. Laughing Dog, hello, yes. And everybody, I'll see you tonight. Paul Bartlett, thanks again. About 10:30 p.m. Eastern. Thanks, everybody. God bless you all.